As promised, I'm going to just open the floor to all of you now. I've done my bit in terms of stimulating the discussion, I hope. Please do raise your hands and put your questions to our fantastic panelists or share your observations. All I ask is that you identify who you are and where you're from so that we can take down everything that you say and use it in evidence against you. Hands, please. Yuso was first, and then I'll take a second one from my friend there.
Okay, as your participant indicated to me, I'm a farmer. Perhaps I will be the only one. I don't know who is a farmer here. I'm farming in France and also working for some startup in agri-tech and food tech. And my question is, okay, you have already a very good speech about sustainable agriculture and about incentive. But on my farm, when I would like to implement all this type of innovation or precision ag, like, I don't know, eco-robotics tools or CN spray or all these things, at the end of the day, the price that I will have for my potatoes or my sugar beet or my cereals are not already taking into account this possible investment, what I will initiate to make more sustainability, more carbon footprint or more things. In this case, okay, it's good speech, but at the end of the day, concretely as Moody Boots, what is the real advantage I will have as of today, taking into account that you have already indicated that you have a Russia import of fertilizer, we have this Mercosur situation. At the end of the day, okay, what I could do and how I could really, as a European guy, try to move further to more sustainable things or carbon footprint or sustainability things. Thank you.
It's a really great question, and I often reflect on that tension between the fact that your inputs are already reflecting the price, that the changes in the world has been reflected in the price of your inputs, but the price of what you produce isn't necessarily respected by the market and hasn't really caught up. So the farmer carries the risk, and I will ask my panelists to come back on that in a moment. So I'll take the question from you as well.
You hear me here? Yeah. Pierre Herben, Senior Advisor. I've been in the past CTO for Yara, crop nutrition. And I listened to all your input and all very good. I think you were mentioning the price of fertilizer, the need of fertilizer, etc. The plant needs nutrient. That's the first thing. I think we need to have to be conscious that it's very complex. We've got a problem of energy cost in Europe, and that sector consumes a lot of energy. So if you compare the cost per hectare in Europe with the rest of the world, we farmers are facing, and the industry are facing big challenges. The second thing is regulation. You were mentioning the need to look for polyhalite. So when I see sulfate, magnesium, the soils are deficient in many of their things. So I think it's there to solve a problem, but you could get it back. The problem is you export it. When you harvest, you export to, nowadays, most of the people live in cities and they flush the fertilizer at the end in the sewage. So it's not coming back. There is no way it's coming back. So you need to bring it, and all the water treatment industry has been developed to clean water, not to recuperate nutrients. So we go back to circular economy, where also you've got such a set of barriers that we have here. So innovation is there, but there need to be, I mean, a certain sense of reality so that you can make it happen. I think it will have to happen a day. But so it's very, very multi-factorial, this. And yeah, I think we were speaking about innovation. I think it's very clear if you look at the consumption of, let's call it synthetic fertilizer for nitrate and for mineral fertilizer, it's not going up. I think precision farming, where agriculture has really gone to the curve, is becoming more and more sustainable. So I think there is a big opportunity in best available technology. So leveraging everything where you can go, and then go circular, then go simpler as well in regulation for the farmers.
Great observations there. I'm going to bring our panelists on that. Guy, I'm going to come to you first of all, because I think our friend from France there, farming, as I say, hits the nail on the head. The input cost that he is using is reflecting what's happened in the market that drives that. But what he's selling it for isn't necessarily reflecting the benefit that hopefully he is creating if he is more sustainable. That's a conundrum, isn't it? How do we find our way through that to de-risk this for the farmer?
Thanks. Yeah, no, this is why we have agricultural policy and a strong agricultural policy, because commodity prices, and let's face it, you're talking about commodity prices in real terms, are still in the long term decreasing, which is problematic, and which is why governments in the EU now, but in practically all parts of the world, are stepping in. And I think this. One of the big questions is, when will this trend change? Will climate change break this trend? Will it make food more expensive across the world? Will it translate into an upward trend for commodity prices? I don't know. I mean, I remember back in the days in the 2008 financial crisis and the debates around global commodity prices, there were several people saying this is really a break of the trend. And it wasn't. So what to do? So what we do, of course, is forms of support, income support, investment support, innovation support. So I think that is one answer. It's maybe not a very satisfactory answer, but it is, I think, very important, because it's also about lives, about livelihoods, about food security. I think another part of the answer is in terms of knowledge and innovation. Supporting farmers, but supporting the wider environment around the farm. And I think another aspect is, of course, adding value. The moment that the product you sell is not a commodity, but is something that has, in one way or the other, more value because of additional processing, because it's a specialized product, you can also try to beat that downward pressure on commodity prices. But there is no easy answer to this question. So, but happy to exchange.
And then maybe to you, Marilda. I mean, the observation there in terms of, perhaps how we've, the things that we've asked some players in the market to do, talked about water treatment, for example. Do you think sometimes we lock ourselves into an innovation paradigm that says we have to innovate in the same vein as how we've done in the past, rather than changing our perspective and saying, well, actually, if we ask some people to do something different, we might get a different outcome?
That's a very philosophical question. Thank you. Yes, well, indeed, I think that we are just thinking in substitution of a product by another, and this is just locking us in the same system overall. I want to reply to the farmer there. I am not a farmer. I am agronomist by training. But still, I think that sometimes what you have to do, it's discussing also with what the other farmers have done right. And I have two examples where I've been. I went in rice farm in Greece, and he was using really high-tech devices. So he was using precision agriculture, and he had the right devices to know how much fertilizers he had in the different plots with tractors. He was really monitoring all this. And he was able to do that investment to reduce by 50% the fertilizers input. He was able to do that because rice is super profitable, actually. So he had the investment, he had the power, he had the money. On the other hand, I was in a farm visit in the north of France, where actually he was using the crop diversification and crop rotation, and actually just doing some cover crops based on regenerative agriculture was working very well for him, because he was using this nitrogen fixing crops, which would reduce the input in fertilizers, which also would reduce the input in pesticides, actually. So it was really a win-win solution there. And that was working for him. So I think that's it really depends on the type of farm. There is still one, I think, one situation that is more sustainable to me. The rice, it's very dependent on the rice, how much he sells the rice. So whenever there is a market problem, the farmer cannot continue to invest in the same way or to use the technology in the same way. On the other hand, using agronomic knowledge seems to be much more sustainable in the long run. And he was also talking about the fact that the yields were there. He was still producing in quantities that could enable him to, on one hand, reduce the price of the input he needed and still continue to have to maintain good yields to also sell his production. So, voilà. Two examples from farmers. I think that this is important. But you were talking about, yeah, I mean, in the circularity, and I think that this is a good way forward. We have a problem of production of fertilizers. How can we increase that production? Maybe that can be done through compost. We have so much bio-waste, as you say. Now the Europe and Europeans have to store the bio-waste. Why can we use it as a source of producing compost, producing fertilizers? And I think that indeed the circularity seems to be also a good innovation where to invest in.
Just, I want to bring Moritz in as well on part of this question. Just back to your example from Greece. I mean, you may not know the answer. You said that the farmer that was making the investment there had the money. Did he or she have the money in the bank already? Did they have to go and get finance for it? Did they finance it based on what they thought the increased profitability would be? I'm just because that's often the biggest hurdle that a farmer has got, is whether to invest or not, and access to the capital is often key.
So what he was saying is that he had already the money to reassure the banks to lend him more money. This is how it works, right? But yeah, indeed, he had already some capital.
Thanks. Moritz, just back to you in terms of the digital monitoring, the diagnostics and so forth that you have. You talked a little bit about the experience in the Netherlands. Do the farmers that you see that are adopting it, I mean, I'm assuming that they do report back to you that they're seeing increased profitability from changing practices, adopting technology, enables them to farm with more precision.
Typically, we receive feedback when things go wrong, more than when things go right. So that's a bit the nature of how the world works. Yeah, but I think adding to what has been said, the role of the advisory companies, I've not heard it today yet, and I think it's a very important one, because I think if you measure the status of your soil, you can actually earn back the cost of that and also reduce your total cost of production. So that's also an answer to you, to the farmer in the room. So I'd be happy to do a pilot with you, because I'm sure we can demonstrate that you can reduce still. And I'm not saying that you're a bad farmer, but we see everywhere the moment that you start measuring, you can do always better. An aspect that was also said here about the food as a commodity, and I think what is currently lacking, or what we should aim for, is that the price of the food is also based on the nutritional value, because today an apple costs the same regardless how much nutrients are in it. So I think that's something that we can make a difference if you do your work. Well, if you produce a better quality product, you should also be paid for it, and that's not the case today. So yes, we see very good examples. There's an advisory company. They tell their farmers, "You pay us so much money, we give you advice, and a significant part of that is used for monitoring. And we promise you, you will earn it back by reducing the cost of your inputs. And if not, you don't have to pay us." So those kind of companies exist, and they are quite active and successful in the Netherlands, and also in other countries. We see that starting. So you must be convinced of it that it works if you do it that way. So the role of the advisor, I think that's an important one because we can learn a lot from stories from other people, but the question is, how does it really flow? And there's also a role of the European Union because I think with the Mission Soil, there's a lot of very nice initiatives. We have a lot of lighthouses, but if you look at the ratio of scientists which are involved and farmers that are involved, it's the wrong way around. There are too many scientists involved and not enough farmers, I would say. And that's also a call to action, which I also mentioned, by the way, when I speak at the gatherings of the scientists. Okay, we need to involve more farmers. And it's nice to have 1,000 lighthouses, but each lighthouse should at least reach 1,000 or 10,000 farmers. And that will only happen if you work with the industry, so with the farm advisors, perhaps with the input suppliers, but also with companies like Eurofins, who have a European footprint, and we work with farmers throughout Europe. So we can also gather those stories and we publish it in our newsletters to the farmers to inspire each other. Say, okay, I did this analysis and this was the result and outcome and this is my savings. So we need to inspire and share more. And that is the difficulty to bring together policy research and the real world, because that is where the differences are made on the field and not here.
Yeah. I'll open it up for one more round of questions. Yes, ma'am. Oh, now you all raise your hands. Okay. Lady with the yellow shirt on in the back, man in the second row, and our friend at the very back there. I'll take it in that order.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tiffany, and I represent Yara International. I'm responsible for government relations and communications here. So I will build on what you said, Pierre, indeed. And it was mentioned also here before, food is a commodity. Fertilizers are also a commodity. And there's always the impact of supply and demand. And I think the dimension that is here really inching, and that's my comment before coming to the questions, is that there's a natural hedge between fertilizer prices and natural gas prices. And we are in a very different place today than we were before 2021. And this is a major challenge when you consider that when producing mineral fertilizers, the main production cost is related to natural gas, which is why, and I'm coming to the first question to you, Gijs, there's a real opportunity to support different decarbonization pathways of the industry in order to produce fertilizers with a much lower carbon footprint. And in that context, the vision on the future of agriculture and food had a lot of promising words about opportunities to create incentives for the demand for recycled fertilizers, bio-based or low carbon footprint fertilizers, to call them this way. Do you have any indications of any initiatives in the pipeline? And a second question to you again, Gijs, if I may. You underlined very clearly that there will be a lot of room on the member state side to decide what to do as part of the new national plans. Is there an intention of the Commission to provide, where science is indicating that it's necessary, a recommendation to promote incentives or incentivize practices to increase nutrient use efficiency? Because I think all the discussion here is underlining the fact that there's a lot of potential. We're talking innovation, but actually it's not necessarily only brand new innovation. It's a lot of tools, practices that exist for decades, and the challenge is more the uptake and making sure that there is a broad trust and also willingness across the farm value chain to implement those practices. So there's a lot of potential that is untapped, and that would also help farmers optimize their spending in fertilization and reduce nutrient losses. Thank you.
Tiffany, very nice to see you. It teaches me to put my glasses on so I can actually see who's in the audience. I apologize for that. Gijs, I'll let you take that one before we open up to other colleagues.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm going to be awfully short on the first question, simply because I'm not aware of the detail. I know that my colleagues are working hard on this to deliver on the vision for agriculture and food. And on the demand side there, also, as you can imagine, given the high fertilizer prices and natural gas questions that are out there at the moment, there's a lot of activity also on the wider question around fertilizer affordability. But I don't want to speculate, so I apologize for that, and I'm sure you either know who to contact, or I'm happy to get you in touch with the people that do that. In terms of the nutrient use efficiency, I think you hit the nail on the head. As you may recall, even in the Farm to Fork strategy of some 6 years ago, we had that as target, a very ambitious target. Scientists were telling us that this was probably as efficient the target was set at a level that was as efficient as you could get in a laboratory, and we're thinking that could never happen on the field. We will, and we have started to prepare recommendations for member states for the next cycle of the Common Agricultural Policy. It's too early to say what will be precisely in those recommendations, but clearly, given the earlier remark I made about fertilizer prices and about the difficulty that provides to farmers, this is a key topic. So how that will spell out is yet to be seen. The problem of these sort of aspects, and then I'll wrap up, is that this is a lot about this sort of innovation on the farm that needs to take place. That needs to take place with knowledge, with you were saying, measuring first. I mean, that's where it starts, right? So that's very difficult to organize and regulate all the way from Brussels. So it really requires member states, farmers, farm advisors, the wider food chain to engage. So I think we have a role to play, but it's not only in our hands, this issue. But I fully agree on the importance. Thank you.
Thanks, Ys. Okay, sir, in the second or third row there, and then my friend at the back.
Yes. Hi, Jakob Rohn from Seed Forward from Northwest Germany. We are an input manufacturer as well, creating bio-based seed treatments for higher efficiency soil biome improvement and so on. So we're part of the input side of the companies. We see ourselves as transition solution. In an ideal world of regenerative systems, we wouldn't need inputs, or only very limited inputs. I think that's kind of the Gabe Brown target solution. But I believe there's a long way to get there, so we need inputs, and we need good inputs to achieve that. And I'm really happy about these positions because I believe there's all the solutions out there. It's really an adaptation issues when we talk to farmers. We're currently covering around 400,000 hectares a year in the EU. And I believe the farmers are lost in the systemic issue in this system that they cannot influence because they lost their connection. Like the cooperatives are not dealing anymore as a cooperative, but they are more standing for themselves, not like in the past so much. And so, I mean, the farmer is willing to change. The question is who's paying for it. And at the moment, it's really, I believe that society has to pay for it if we really want that, because Germany is paying historically low food prices, for example. France is paying more. It's like, it's really a consumer issue, but then we have a supply chain around that, around some monopolies in trade, of course, that are challenging. And then we have this whole global view of a MATIF, where we trade wheat based on some fictive numbers in China or Russia that are not really real. I mean, we're discussing something like we have no inflation adaptation for farmers, but we have rising prices for input materials, for machines. At Agritechnica last week, there were 27 halls full of suppliers who want to sell something to farmer, but the farmer doesn't have more money. So, I mean, that's the issue. And the question is, as a society, do we want to pay for it? And I'm really happy that we have the EU soil law now. I think that's a huge achievement. How it's going to be put into practice is interesting. But my question is really, how can we, as the EU and the single market observation maybe, make sure that our farmers are protected, that we value it, that society is paying for the services they provide? How do we get there? I mean, it's like super complex system. I'm happy that you have such a broad view on that. Thank you for that.
Great observations and question. I think probably the question goes to you again, Ys, on that. The reflection I always have about Agritechnica is when I see, as you say, these halls and halls full of just wonderful and fantastic machinery, who pays for it? How are we supporting farmers to access some of that innovation? Clearly somebody is, otherwise they wouldn't be there. But it does make me wonder about the circularity of the financial system, where the economics of farming. But Yves, perhaps respond to the question that our friend put there.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. You sketch the conundrum that we're trying to solve with agricultural policy. Partially, it's the answer is similar to the one of the farmer from France. I think what we so it's we have a significant budget. We try to use that and target that to where it is most needed. So I think that is in terms of agricultural policy what we are trying to do. We also realize that there's limitations to this. So therefore, your earlier point, Mark, on the bringing in of private means through selling other services and delivering other products. I was also triggered by your question, your comment on cooperatives, because one of the ways in which traditionally you approach questions of position of farming is be stronger in the market together, add value through membership of a cooperative where you can reap some of the benefits. And we hear this a lot, we see this a lot, that farmers do not believe anymore that the cooperatives are there for them. They don't feel a member, they feel like a customer or worse. So I do continue to believe that cooperatives are a good tool. And I think maybe there needs to be a there needs to be a rise in the ranks of the members of a cooperative to elect a new board because cooperatives, and there's many examples of cooperatives that also work and that do deliver either value added or lower prices for inputs. So I would not give up on the cooperative. That would be one of the solutions in addition to all the public funding solutions that are there. I would certainly not give up on the cooperative as a means, cooperative entrepreneurship, I like to call it, as a means to further success for farmers.
Marilda?
Thank you. Just really a small precision, because you were asking several times, as society, we need to support farmers, right? The CAP is taxpayers' money. It's 1/3 of the EU budget. I think that as a society, we support farmers. There is a lot of money that is given to the agricultural sector. But again, how it is distributed, is it fair enough? Are those farmers that depend the most on the CAP money really getting the support they need versus maybe the biggest farm? So these are other questions, but just a small precision.
I just before I bring my friend in from the back, question to our farmer from France in front of me. Not only am I being philosophical today, I'm also tempted to be provocative. It's often said that farmers have political power, but that never translates into market power. Is that fair?
Yes, first I forget to present myself, Pierre Ferrand, yes, coming from France. As you say, yes, farmer has political power, but the main difference within that, the political power from a producer of wine could be different from a producer of sugar beet or potatoes. In this case, at the end of the day, compared to other sector like, I don't know, car, automobiles, cars, or airplane, they are a huge bench of all companies together that farmers, sometimes they are a little bit afraid. To take example of the Mercosur, beef, my friend who are already have producing beef are not happy. My friend in Bordeaux are very happy about wine. In this case, at the end of the day, the political power is different. Just to make I would say a quick summary of that, I think we are totally online with productivity, with innovation, because you take the farming industry since 30 years. I don't know if you have a lot of industry who are passing from horses and things to now tractor at Agritechnica with things. But two topics I have not heard today is first regulatory, because we would like to innovate. We would like to use bionutrient or biopesticide or biocontrol or biologicals, but first regulatory is not there. We need to wait 7 years from active ingredients to the market to have that. And second topic with a precision ag or rice situation is weather. We could be very happy to have I would like to have a nice yield with rice and things, but sometimes we are one of the only one industries who are totally dependent of the weather. And thanks to some very decision-making tools or precision ag to help us, but at the end of the day, and on top of that, we need to secure our yield. And how to secure some yield? Sometimes we prefer traditional way, because we are sure that at the end of the day, we have the revenue.
I'm going to ask all the panelists to just reflect on those two questions, observations. My friend at the back has been waiting very patiently. No, it was me. I asked you the question. So say who you are and where you're from, and this will be the last question, and then I shall ask the panelists to close.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. My name is Dave Hemingway, actually in a personal capacity. I do have a degree in agriculture, forestry and conservation, and I'm actually from Yorkshire, so very close to where the mine is. So I think sort of my first question is, it's quite rare that you can see such an important innovation and development in a national park and a very beautiful part of the world, which I think is actually a really strong indication that things can be done in the future. So if you could explore a little bit more about how that lesson could be learned across Europe. And then my sort of second question was actually asked by Tiffany. So I've actually got another one. We're talking about all of this knowledge. There's this different thing. There's a rice farmer here. There's a rice farmer there. But how do we get the policy joined up better? We've heard from the Commission where they've said, that's not me, that's someone else. But the farmer is interacting with this machinery, the regulatory machinery, all of these different things. So how do we make that more joined up, as well as having the farmers have the knowledge and make sure they're joined up with that as well?
Great question. So I'm going to start with you, Marilda, and work our way down. Perspectives on, the extent to which the regulatory environment enables the innovation, the change of practices to come through. The point that was made about, at the end of the day, you put your crop in the ground and the spring, and you hope it comes out with a good yield, when you come to harvest. How do we deal with those variabilities? Your perspective on that, and then we'll work our way down the platform.
Well, it's always boils down to this really hard question is, how do we address long-term and short-term problems, right? So these weather events, extreme weather events that you have to answer to it, address in an urgency, they are not happening they're happening more and more. It's going to stay there because of the climate change that is fueled also by the way we produce food and the way and our different activities. So it's a kind of a circle back. So I think that we need indeed, we need to have a sort of security fund for farmers who are hit by those extreme weather events, and help them when it's needed. But it doesn't prevent us to work on the long-term problem, which is how can we change our practices for them to be more resilient to more and more extreme weather events, right? Is how do we invest in nature to protect the farmers? How do we invest in those high diversity landscape elements that would actually buffer around the rice fields, and that would maybe I don't know, if there are droughts, will be able to retain the water for the rice production. So these are the questions that we have to answer, and I think that we can do both, but we cannot act on the long term if we forget about the direction of travel. And this has to be always, always in the back of whatever policy we design in the future.
Very fair. Lawrence?
Yeah, I think climate change is a relative new thing, but the weather always was changing through the years and between the years. So I think farmers have always been able to work with the uncertainties of dry and droughts and wetness and all that. I think the soil health is like the answer here, because if you have healthy soils, you become more resilient. And I'm not saying that your crops will never fail, because if they're real extreme events, you will still fail. So I like the idea of like a fallback situation that if a disaster happens, we within Europe take care of it. But we need to help the farmers, I believe, to increase their soil health. And the soil monitoring directive is nice, but that's nothing compared to the amount of farmers that we really need to address. So Gijs, you said something about that it would be good that farmers start to measure, but you didn't know how to do it. I would like to suggest, why don't you put it into the cap? Because you could make it a prerequisite saying if you want to apply for the Common Agricultural Policy, the funding, you need to show that there is a soil test available. In the Netherlands, we used to have derogation for a very long time, and I'm not going to say whether it was good or bad, but at least farmers, if you want to apply for derogation, you had to do a soil test. And that's why in the Netherlands, farmers really started to do a lot of soil testing. The industry picked it up because for the legislation, you only needed to look into NPK, but the farm advisors and the laboratories, they said, well, if you take a soil sample now, don't just look at a few things, but also look into micronutrients, look into soil biology, and stimulate all that. So I think, in my view, the answer is there, and I'm very happy that you're next.
Nice.
Thank you very much. Now, many things to give feedback on. Gentleman from Yorkshire, you said that you sort of suggested I had passed the message that it's not me. I think it's good you mentioned that, because that enables me to explain how we believe we can contribute to innovation, and this came up in the context of nutrient use and efficiency. So I mean, we have a very significant investment in research and innovation through the Horizon program, lots of activity on agriculture, translate that into testing with groups of farmers and scientists through the European Innovation Partnership, thousands of groups throughout the EU. I would agree. You made the point that there's maybe not enough farmers involved in these groups, so we can do better. I would immediately recognize that. Also, Lighthouse projects are there, and of course we also finance farm advice through the CAP in member states. So I think we have quite a scope of activities that we support. But in the end, and that's maybe the point I wanted to make, it's not a guarantee for success. You need the involvement of the farmers, of the wider community. So that's one point I wanted to make. On the regulatory side, thank you for bringing that up. Very good. So on biopesticides, normally on the 16th of December, we come with a proposal as Commission to facilitate the procedures around getting biopesticides on the market in the EU. By control, yeah. I'm happy to change the language, but indeed the whole concept is to have a faster procedure for that. Also to make sure that other process aspects of the work that EFSA, the European Food Safety Authority in Parma, does are going smoother, faster. So we are, and when I say we, I should actually give all the credit to the colleagues in DG Sante working on this topic, which is usually important. And maybe finally, in terms of the soil testing, making it part of the CAP. So we tried that in 2013. The Council and Parliament didn't want it. So maybe we should try again. But I agree in principle that would be a very good idea. Yeah.
Great, thank you. It turns to you, Rachel, for the final word and insights that you may have gathered from this discussion. As it's the first time that we've appeared on a panel together, let me welcome you to our debate on the future of agriculture in Europe. As you see, we agree on absolutely everything, and there's no discussion to be had. Rachel, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mark, and it's been an absolute privilege to be part of the discussion today. I did just want to perhaps just answer the question that came from Yorkshire at the back of the room in terms of how you might be able to take the learnings of something like Woodsmith that has been developed within a national park and expand that and use that model elsewhere. And I think it comes down to something or two things to my mind, personal view. Sustainability in design. So actually thinking about environment and sustainability before engineers put a pen to paper and look at that. It's really, really important that that's where we lead from. And I think respectful and very intensive stakeholder engagement, again, before you ever approach to go and get a permit to do something, can be very, very meaningful in terms of your ability to take something forward and make sure that you're bringing people on the journey with you. But in terms of today, it's been so helpful to hear different perspectives, to understand some of the challenges that faces the whole ecosystem. And I think on behalf of Anglo American, we are very, very proud and excited to be part of a move towards a more resilient and productive agricultural system. We believe we can make a responsible contribution in that move towards sustainable agricultural practices by optimising fertiliser use in amongst other tools, whilst delivering yield increase to farmers and improve soil health and nutrient use efficiency. And I think that we have demonstrated that we can do this in a manner that is sensitive to the environments in which we operate. But most of all, the discussion today has been extremely meaningful and helpful. And I think my reflection is, we want to be part of the conversation. We want to be part of the discussion. We want to understand the challenges from the different angles, whether that's from policymakers, industry, farmers, academics, and we're really here. We're here for the long term. This is a very, very long term and capital intensive investment. But we're absolutely here and we'd love to carry on the conversation beyond this session today. So thank you very much, Mark, for the invite and the opportunity. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Rachel. When this event was set up and my friends at the forum gave me the running order for it, I was convinced that they'd given me 2 hours for this because they know how bad I am at timekeeping and therefore have built in 15 minutes extra. I'm pleased to say that I've completely failed to keep to the time again. So I'm being given signals to wrap up. It is merely a reflection of how good our panelists have been and how great your questions were for the debate that we've had. So thank you to you, Marilda, as always, for keeping our feet to the fire. Moritz, for your insights. Yves, for everything that you said. We wish your daughter exceptionally good luck in her biology test. And to you, Rachel, for helping to put this on, sharing with us your innovation and what you brought forward. And of course, to all of you for participating.